Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, Principal Atmospheric Scientist at Nutrient Ag Solutions, and I want to thank you for watching this weekly Ag Weather Update brought to you on Memorial Day here from the Farm Credit Associations of North Carolina. When we look back over the last week, we can see the tremendous amounts of rainfall that fell across the state here and also in the surrounding states into Virginia and South Carolina as well. We knew that the models were saying that the cutoff low that we watched much of last week had the potential to do this, but when you add it all up, there was some pretty horrific flooding across the state of North Carolina last week. When we broaden this out and look at bigger picture, though, this is across the rest of the United States over the last 7 days, and why I do that is to kind of bring to your attention a couple of things. The midsection of the United States saw some severe weather as well, and we need to be keeping a close eye on the heavy rain that was moving through early this morning into parts of Florida. We're going to talk about that more in a few moments. Now, looking just west here, I want to show you the Midwest and the central United States. We're dealing not only with some very heavy rainfall, but also some very large hail. This is a map just showing how much hail we saw across the country over the weekend. Anything bigger than pea-sized hail is going to show up on this, and parts of the Red River Valley saw some huge hailstones. Now, this was from Rick Smith. He is the warning coordination meteorologist out of the Norman, Oklahoma National Weather Service office. And as you see this hailstone here, which was about 4 inches in diameter, you kind of notice something odd here on the top side of this hailstone. And what you're looking at there is insulation, because that hailstone went through the roof of a house. Just incredible to see how powerfully destructive large hail like this is. You may have seen this in the news over the weekend too. This was a particular hailstone found in north central Texas, originally tweeted out here by Tony Marie Scott. And the kid's face kind of, I think, tells us exactly what we all thought about seeing hailstones this large. That one is 5.33 inches in diameter, which is just incredible to see here. Now, for the beginning of this week, our main flood threat, while we'll be cleaning up here in parts of North Carolina where we still do have flood warnings out on our river systems, the flood threat from the atmosphere is going to be back in the center part of the United States, and when we have extreme heat, that is out west. So that's going to be important to see how the rest of this week shapes up for North Carolina. So what I want you to be paying most attention to is not necessarily the storms going up the middle part of the United States early this morning, but what you see right down here over Florida. There is a mid-level low that is spinning over that area, and throughout the week we're going to watch the low kind of pull up here into North Carolina, adding more rainfall during a time period we wish we could dry out. So we're going to take a look at how that gets there. But first, I just want to show you from the Weather Prediction Center. This is their 7-day outlook on total accumulated precipitation, and this is the same map, but instead showing you with respect to normal. So we can see where the flood threat will be highest in through here, but with that system coming out of Florida, any additional rainfall that we'll be getting this week will automatically increase our flood threat across the states of North and South Carolina. So we'll take a closer look at exactly how much rainfall we're going to be getting here, but I want to show you exactly what's going on. This animation here of the upper level winds in the atmosphere kind of shows you how the pattern will evolve in the coming days and what this might mean towards temperatures. So as you take you out just to 10 days, here's the features we're watching. You see today, the main feature coming through the middle part of the country here, this low, is what's going to keep the midsection of the country soggy. But there is a mid-level low sitting right here over parts of Florida that's going to slowly move under this ridge toward North Carolina. So we have rain from that coming, and then toward the end of the week and weekend, as this trough finally pulls here by the end of the week off to the eastern side of the United States, it will drape a front across this area, increasing our precipitation chances toward the end of the week. But what I want you to notice is that beyond that, what we end up getting is broad ridging across the United States, suggesting that week 2 has an entirely different precipitation pattern for us, and also quite a bit different in terms of temperatures. So if we look out over the next 5 days, you can see those two centers of heavy precipitation. And again, our main focus over the next 5 days is going to be this, as moisture comes pulling around this side here, could possibly increase rainfall amounts in the two areas that saw the heaviest rainfall over the last week. But notice as we get out here into week 2, so that map I just showed you goes until Thursday night. This is now going from Friday all the way until next Wednesday, so out to June the 3rd. And at that time period, we can see a much broader ridge moving in. It'll just be the frontal boundary that slides to the east out ahead of that ridge that we're going to have to deal with some precipitation due to its presence. Okay, so we're going to take a close look at that. But the operational European model through the next week, so this gets us out basically until Sunday evening, looks at the potential for adding quite a bit more rainfall. Even in the drier parts of the state in through here, possibly still adding another inch to an inch and a third, whereas getting over toward the Appalachian Mountains, we could possibly get another 2 to 3 inches of rainfall out of this, which would just make our flooding problems so much worse, and it's going to be the same thing here along the coast. So in terms of severe weather, we're not really talking too much about severe weather. The main risk is going to be west of us, but there is a general thunderstorm risk for the next 3 days and possibly toward the end of the week as well. So as we take a look at how this is all going to unfold, again, our attention is going to be on what we saw coming out of Florida here. So to start off the week, if we just watch this again, widely scattered showers and thunderstorms early today, but then as we work our way through Tuesday, a little bit quieter of a day, and it's going to be on Wednesday that we're going to watch the big push of moisture coming up out of Florida. So again, this is the beginning of your weekend. This is now getting here into the overnight hours on Tuesday and Wednesday morning. So some potential here for some very, very heavy rainfall. To see how it continues to evolve, let's go over to the European model, and if we just start this playing, let's pause it here and step you back through a couple of details. Throughout the day today on Monday, again, just widely scattered showers and storms. Further to the west you go, I think the higher the probability into the evening hours. Much of the day on Tuesday, just very widely scattered precip across the state, but it'll be really as we get into Wednesday morning, afternoon, and evening that we're going to watch for the chances for precipitation to really increase here. And it's going to stick around throughout the day on Thursday, and then notice this, as we work our way toward the end of the week, this is now Friday morning, afternoon, and evening, see the main frontal boundary coming through this area. That's going to increase our precipitation chances toward the weekend as well. I'm now taking out to Saturday evening, getting finally into Sunday where things begin to clear out as a dominant area of higher atmospheric pressure builds in behind this. So what happens for week 2? Well, the GFS ensemble is over here on the left. The European ensemble is over here on the right. And with that broader ridge coming in, we can see a drier week 2 in the forecast showing up from both models. But I want you to notice a couple of things. First of all, notice what's going on down here in the tropics. In both situations, both models here are painting above average precipitation in the Gulf of Mexico, in the Caribbean. We got to keep a close eye out on that. We need to also be watching what's going on the West Coast, because the pattern, while it may start off as we get into the first week of June on the drier side of things, it doesn't appear like it's going to stay like that for long. Here's a couple of the reasons why. Now, this particular figure is showing you what we call velocity potential. Now, the way to look at it is anytime you see these colors over here, these cooler colors, that's where the air is allowed to rise, and it exhausts deep in the upper levels of the atmosphere. When you see these colors here, the warmer colors, that's where we have suppression. Now, how you look at this is going forward with time, so May 25th all the way out to June 9th. And you need to understand that there's kind of a map underneath this. And so what we're going to be seeing over here is in the Caribbean, in the main development region, in the Gulf of Mexico, the upper levels of the atmosphere, due to the movement of the Madden-Julian oscillation, are going to be more conducive for tropical activity. Now, I'm not saying we see any tropical systems coming here as we work our way into the end of May and beginning of June, but the atmosphere is just advertising a much more comfortable environment for them to form. And why that is because the Madden-Julian oscillation is jumping out of phase 5, getting into the Western Pacific, and finally coming into the Western Hemisphere. And as it does that, that is whenever you see phase 8, 1, and 2, just so you know, that's the time period, really phases 8 and 1, that we're going to be making for decent conditions in the tropics for systems to develop. Now, we have to pay attention to the tropics for other reasons as well. When you look over here on this map on the right, we've seen a lot of blue shading in through this area. That indicates strong trade winds over the last month or so. They've been met with some stronger westerly winds here, and in the near term, as we finish May, I just want to keep an eye on the tropics because we are seeing some westerly winds blast here back over towards South America. But overall, the cooler water that you see emerging here with this La Nina, this developing La Nina, will likely be a bigger case to contend with later in the season, primarily because of how warm the North Pacific is, something we've been talking about for a while. But do notice, the main development region for hurricanes in through here, warm. The Caribbean, warm. The Gulf of Mexico, warm. And right up along the southeast coast, warm, which is why we're still continuing to see our concerns about the upcoming hurricane season to be quite elevated. Last week, at the end of last week, NOAA released its latest outlook for the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season. Now, I'll be honest, a lot of times when they release this, their pie chart between above normal, near normal, and below normal oftentimes looks like, 33, 33, 33. But this year, due to that developing La Nina, they are seeing the warm temperatures over the Atlantic and the potential for lower wind shear, and they've gone with a 60% probability of being above normal, and you can see what they're anticipating here. Now, always we have to put a couple of caveats on this. We can have an extremely busy hurricane season, yet none of them hit the east coast of the United States or even the Gulf Coast. We can also have a very inactive season, but it just takes one storm. So this is what we're going to have to start watching very carefully as we move forward in our forecast. Let's switch our attention now over to temperatures. And what I want you to see here is this map shows the last 30 days of temperature anomalies here across North America. And we can see that overall it's been a cool last 30 days compared to normal. In other words, we've avoided a lot of the bigger heat. Consequence of that, though, is that since April 1st, now this is just through a couple of days ago, we have seen, now a deficit overall in our growing degree day units, not only here in North and South Carolina, but across a broad sector of the eastern part of the United States. So that's significant, and we need to see if we have any heat coming in to kind of make up for that. Here's another way to look at it. I've been producing these new maps, and I'm going to show you these all summer long. Now, what you're looking at here in the color coding is solar flux. So think about this in terms of visible sunlight, which we use for photosynthesis, okay, getting down to the plant canopy. So when you see the bluer colors, we're looking at a cumulative deficit, and we see the warmer colors, that's where we have a surplus. So notice down here where there's been drought in South America, a lot of lack of cloud cover, I should say, and that's promoted the development of that drought. But if you zoom in over here in North America, we can see so much of our central and eastern corn belt showing up with less than normal solar flux, which basically means the crop is emerging very, very slowly on the lack of heat and the lack of sun. We in North Carolina have been much closer to average, and because of some earlier heat back in April, we are technically right on average or above average. But this is something we're going to watch throughout the rest of this growing season. Now, what are our temperatures doing today? We still have a slight cool bias here on Monday. Highs are going to be generally in the low 70s, getting warmer as you get over toward, the southeastern coast. As we play this thing forward, though, what we see is that from Tuesday into Wednesday, we don't break out of our slightly cooler than average pattern. So you see a lot of these temperatures not getting out of the 70s. Working away into Thursday and eventually into our weekend. So look, Friday getting into Saturday. Now we have some more 80s showing up here. But this is when the pattern really begins to break down, such that by the weekend, by Sunday, look at the heat building in here. So going from Sunday, now looking out at that 6 to 10 day time period beyond that, while we still hang on to the cooler bias, that breaks in the 11 to 15 day as big heat moves in here and it starts to push not only the drier weather, but the warmer weather back into North Carolina. So it looks as though we're going to finish the month here with a slight cool bias across the state. Now, looking longer term, this is some new data came out over the weekend from the European weeklies. And what I'm showing you here is June 1st through July 1st. Now, overall, it's maybe what you don't see that's more important here. We don't see that during that time period that we should anticipate much of the East Coast and the Mid-Atlantic and the Carolinas to go dry. So we don't see a flip-flop right away to extreme dry weather. In terms of temperatures, we expect things to be near average, maybe even carry a slight warm bias. Do notice how warm the west coast of the United States is, though, as we move forward in this forecast. And that could be something that's critical for our longer range. So also at the end of last week, NOAA released its new 3-month outlook for June, July, August. And we can see a lot of heat up the west coast, but you notice all along the periphery of this potentially near average to cooler than average wedge here into the central corn belt, we do see the forecast for June, July, August is to be above average in terms of temperatures, but it may be a wet one as well. So we keep updating what these longer range forecasts are going to look like, and this is just the latest from NOAA as we look out again for June, July, and August. Now, since we're talking about temperatures, I want to show you something quite amazing. This map looks over the last 7 days at average temperature anomalies across the planet. I'm going to take you to this spot right here in Russia, because on average, the normal high for this time of year is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. At the end of last week, inside of that area that's white, they hit 78 degrees Fahrenheit. So this highly amplified flow pattern across the globe is setting us off on some interesting temperature patterns here. I just thought you might find that interesting. To finish it up, we can watch a few areas globally where we're going to watch crops. First of all, I want you to watch southern Brazil. We're going to keep an eye on the Black Sea region. We did have a powerful tropical cyclone hit Bangladesh, and Australia over the weekend. Western Australia took a beating here. So if we just take a look at this animation, let's watch down here in southern Brazil first. Very dry much of last week, but look toward the end of the week on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Big time rainfall came into the drought-parched regions of southern Brazil. Now, it's probably too much rain too late to really affect things in in Rio Grande do Sul. But in Paraná, where they do grow a safrinha crop, that rain was very beneficial. Over the Black Sea region, we did see rain coming in. See it here? So this is Ukraine. Some good rains midweek last week. Toward the end of the week, we had another shot of it. See this system coming through here? Brings in over the weekend some precipitation. Meanwhile, if you come back here, watch this powerful tropical cyclone just race through parts of Bangladesh, causing some major flooding problems there. And then on Sunday, a system slams into Western Australia, bringing in incredibly strong winds, and with it also some heavy precipitation. So globally had a lot going on. And that's where I want to finish up today. In South America, we are seeing that their main growing area here is showing up with a cool bias over the next week, and it will be quite dry in there as well. I don't see frost threat to discuss, but it's something I want you to keep an eye on. And finally, in Europe, just again, the Black Sea is right in through here. While we do see parts of, like the Iberian Peninsula getting up to France and the UK going over warm, we will be seeing the Black Sea growing area, specifically Ukraine, carrying a cool bias and a wet bias as we press forward, which could be important for our markets. Okay, I want to give you that international kind of influence here as we work our way toward the end of this video. Have a great week, and I look forward to talking again next Monday. Thank you.